So a question was asked of me recently. Can you count between 1 and 100 in a programming language without using a loop? So this is the type of question that might come up periodically in, let's say, an interview or something like that. And it's not really to show you how you would normally do something, but to kind of test how do you think about things. So the answer is yes, you can do it. And the most common method, a method that would be available to most every language, would be use something like recursion. Now, some languages have other methods that would allow you to do it, some lambda expressions and things like that, but we're going to look at something that would work with almost any language. So to do something like this, I'm going to create a function. I'm going to show you two different ways of creating this function, but we're going to first start with this simple method. Now, I'm going to do this in C++, but this could be done in basically any language. So I'm going to have here a function, and I'm going to return void. It doesn't need to return a value. I'm going to call this not a loop. And I'm just going to give it start. And so the key thing in recursion is to know when you have an exit value. And so if I'm greater than 100, I want to exit out because I only want to do from 1 to 100. So I'm going to say if start is less than or equal to 100. I'm going to cout start, the value that I got passed in, and then I'm going to do an indel so it does one number on each line. Then the recursive part of this is I'm going to call not a loop again. And I'm going to say start plus 1. Now you might say, well, why am I doing that? Well, I'm adding 1 to the next value. So I'm going to take where my initial value is. Let's say it's 1. And I'm going to say is 1 less than 100? Yes, so I'm going to do the body of my if statement. It's going to print out 1. Go to a new line, and then it's going to call not a loop, start plus 1. Well, 1 plus 1 is 2, and that's going to give me 2, then 3, then 4. And so this is a really easy way. It allows me to modify my parameter and call it over and over again, not in a loop, but by using recursion. So I'm going to do that, and then here in my main, I'm going to say not a loop, and I'm just going to start with 1. So very simple. I'm going to run this. And if you notice here, when I run this, it gives me the numbers 1 through 100, just as I'd expect. So this is nice and an easy way to do this. Now, this is also a little bit limiting because it requires that I be between whatever that starting number is and 100. So let's look at how we can modify this just real quickly by overloading this function. So I'm going to come in here and once again, no data type to return. So void, not a loop. But I can have int start and int end. If start is less than or equal to end. So notice it looks very similar, except now I have a second data type. And my second data type allows me to kind of give it an option to be a different value. And then all I'm going to do is the same part I had before, start, and then I'm going to pass in end as my second parameter. That way I keep it consistent and I go with the right value. So now I can say, instead of not a loop and start at 1, I can say 1 and just go to 10 as an example. When I run this, it displays all the numbers between 1 and 10. Very, very simple as far as that goes. Now, if I want to be a little bit smart about it, I can use a default value. And a default value, I'm going to take out my first function because it's no longer necessary. If I don't get passed in a second value, I'm going to use the default. So, for example, if I say not a loop 1, notice it doesn't give me an error message. It assumes that the second parameter is 10. And if I run this real quick, it displays 1 through 10 for me. However, if I say comma 25 and I run it, it's going to now use 25 as the ending value. Or if I pass in 50 or 100 or 10,000, doesn't matter. So with a couple little tweaks, we can get really smart as to how we want to work this. And we can go beyond just not using a loop, but showing the real knowledge that we have of a programming language and how we can use that to be really flexible. And that's something that, especially in something like an interview, people are looking for. So whenever you're being interviewed, you sometimes need to learn to think outside the box, but use all that information you do have in the best ways possible. And this is just a simple example. Now, like I said, this basic idea can be used in multiple languages. Not every language has every feature, and this is just one way. Other languages might have preferred ways, but this is a nice, simple way to work on that.